Hi, and welcome to the Writing Biz. This is where we take care of the business of writing. This week's episode begins our four-part series on self-publishing, and we're going to start with a question: is self-publishing right for you? There's many things that you need to take into consideration when deciding if you will self-publish your book or work with a small publisher or a traditional larger publisher. To help us weigh the pros and cons, I have two terrific guests tonight. I have Angela Bole. She's the Executive Director of the Independent Book Publishers Association, and Charlotte Pierce of Pierce Press, and she is also the co-president of Independent Publishers in New England. I'll let these ladies tell you a little bit more about themselves. Angela, hi. It's so nice to see you again.
Hi, Laura. It's nice to see you too. Thanks.
Would you mind sharing with our audience a bit more about IBPA and your role there?
Sure. Yeah, IBPA, it stands for the Independent Book Publishers Association. It's a 30-year-old professional trade association, and we serve independent publishers and self-published authors. And more recently, we've actually been very happy to pull hybrid published authors into our ranks as well. We're an advocacy, education, and service providing association, so we do a lot of education, trying to help people understand publishing as a business. We also do a lot of advocacy for independent publishers and self-published authors, and we provide a great deal of benefits as well, so we can try and help level the playing field for independent publishers and self-published authors, kind of bringing them in. But probably about 70% of our membership, about 3,000 members, are self-published authors, and the other 30% are traditional publishers to a degree, just small and independent presses.
And let me say, too, that I have checked out the IBPA website several times over the course since I've known you, and the education programs there are really good, really intense, and they're not just fluff put up there. They are really worthwhile programs. So if anybody would like to check that out, it's definitely, you know, it's one of the better places, I think, to get that kind of information, because you know you're getting the right information from real experts that care about what they're doing. Charlotte just came back from her vacations with an S in Scotland and Washington State, and I'm glad to see you're back safe and sound. I missed you.
Yeah, I finally got over that jet lag. That's just insane when you get older. You can hardly deal with it.
I bet it is. But it takes, what, 2 or 3, couple of days anyways, right?
Couple of days, yeah. I mean, it was like the first leg when I came back from the UK to New England. It was just a little bit crazy. And then, anyway, you don't need to know about all that. But
well, I'm glad you're feeling better.
Thank you, yeah.
Now, I know that you're an indie publisher in the Boston area. And could you tell us a bit more about IPNE and what that offers independent publishers and authors and how it's helped you?
Yeah, I joined in 2008, and I've been on and off the board. I'm currently co-president along with Tortoise Isselhart of Vermont, who Angela knows well. And we do a lot of the same stuff that IBPA does on a national level, but like the education, the coaching, conferences, and book shows. We represent our members' books in cooperative marketing exhibits at book shows. We've got 3 coming up this fall. But I think one of the differences is, you know, being regional. Even though we are a large region, which presents its own difficulties, we have a more kind of direct to the publisher, hands-on mentoring, if you will, and like today, I had an extensive conversation with one of our new members. I like to see why people joined, and you know, we just have that luxury being a little smaller. We have about 150 members, and I'd say probably about the same ratio, 70-30 self-published to kind of people with anywhere from 2 to 30 books that they publish every, you know, in print. So. It's definitely informed my own publishing.
Well, yeah, of course it has, and you're definitely doing good work there. That's for sure.
Thank you.
Now, what I think the first thing we should kind of cover is what are some of the most important aspects of the business that an author considering self-publishing has to kind of step back and think about before they make a choice between self-publishing alone, using a small publishing house, or going the more traditional route through major publishers. Angela, I'll start with you. What do you think are the first things that a author should think about?
First thing might be, if there's a lot to think about, but maybe the first thing you're going to think about is your consumer. Who's your reader? Because I think knowing your reader and understanding that person or persons that you're trying to reach at the end of the journey is going to really inform your journey. So the first thing I would do is take a really clean look, an unjudgmental look, a non-connected look at your content and who you think the best reader for that content might be. And then you can start to plan your publishing business and your publishing journey around that idea.
Now, we did a show early on with Nina Amir. I think it was my 4th show that I did. And she talked to us about building the business plan / book proposal, because they're so similar. And if they're well done and well fleshed out, can almost one can take place of the other. And that's some of the things she brought up, is sitting back and putting a plan together and really thinking about who you're trying to reach, how you plan to reach them, and then also deciding on your commitment and things like that. So I think that she made some very valid points. If anybody wants to go back and watch that, I think it was episode 4 with Nina Amir. It's a really good one.
She was awesome, right? Yeah.
Yeah, she always is. Amazing woman.
I think I would echo what Angela said. I mean, what you're about when you're publishing, unless, like, I love the word privishing. If you're not publishing, you're privishing, so you can keep it all to yourself. But if you're publishing, you need to know who you're trying to reach, and absolutely know that person. Or if you're a small publisher with a number of different books, kind of know what niche or genre that you're trying to do your best to reach. But I think Nina and you and a few other people have really convinced me of the need for a plan. You know, start, like, too many people I see, including myself, we're so involved in producing our book that we don't plan ahead, you know, like 3 months ahead to start the publicity, get the review copies out, you know what your publication date is. Don't just like, oh, when it's done, that'll be my publication date.
Right.
And I've made all those mistakes. A lot of us have. But you know, I think a plan it will save you and make you successful.
You know, and that's a really good point, Charlotte. There is something to that when you talk about, with 3,000 members at IBPA, and I like what you said before about how you like to talk to your members and figure out where they're coming from, and I like to do the same, and there are multiple different reasons to get into publishing, and a lot of people will do it without a plan, and they'll find that might work for them. But I think what you're talking about and what this session is and what we're all aspiring to is a professionalism in our publishing, and an understanding of the market and what publishing means as a business, so that you can actually enter the trade and get your book stocked in different outlets and have multiple distribution channels for your work, rather than just putting it up potentially on Amazon, you know, through their Kindle program, and then having it for sale direct to consumer. It's a very simple channel and one you can do almost without a plan. But then there's all kinds of other things related to having a plan that will really make your business grow and really turn you into a professional publisher.
Yeah, so part of it is knowing what your own personal goals are. I mean, it's perfect, like you said, it's perfectly fine to have a single book and it's on Amazon, and once in a while you do a signing or something. But yeah, exactly.
I think it has to do with what your direction is. What do you want to do? I mean, do you want to do just the one book, or do you want to do a series of books? Do you want to put, you know, products around the books, et cetera, et cetera? And I think I have not gone that journey myself, and that's one reason you all are educating me.
We're working on you, Laura.
Yeah, I know. I've been doing a lot of reading and research on it, and I think that people that I see that have higher aspirations that don't do well, it's because they're missing large pieces. And that large piece may be that they didn't build their audience. It may be that they did not really research the platforms they were going to publish on and got into a platform that did not work well for them or cost them too much, et cetera, et cetera. You know, even as far as, you know, they had an indie publisher or something like that, and they didn't take the time to vet the person. They just threw their project at them without really understanding where it was going. So I think that there's a lot of back research that needs to be done. Now, I know I am a little bit anal. My kids will tell you that over and over again.
Type A, I think we call it, right?
Yeah, that's what we call it, like maybe a triple A. But you know, I have to before I can do something, I have to have a real picture of how it's going to work in my head. I've never been one to just jump out and do things. So my process is much different than a lot of people's. But I think that if you have a good grasp of the big pieces and how they're going to work, you can kind of figure things out a little bit on the way, is what my point was. It took me a while to get there, but that's what it was. Now, I know on IBPA, they are big into education, and you have some wonderful programs there. As somebody thinking about self-publishing, what would you suggest? Maybe there are a couple of places we could start on the IPA education site to get us a feel for what we need to do.
So what do we have as in terms of education that people can plug into?
Yeah.
We do have some online education through a program called Open Learning. If you're an IBPA member, we house a ton of webinars and different sessions for free in Open Learning, and you get a username and password when you join us. And that we're trying to put in there everything you need to know, from distribution to the different sales channels, selling, marketing, promoting, things of that nature. Because I think what happens when people decide, do I want to self-publish or do I want to publish? If you are a AAA, I think self-publishing is a really good option for you, because you're going to want to wear multiple hats, and you're going to want to wear them well. And so what we're trying to do is help them understand all those different hats that you're going to put on. So Open Learning is one way you can do that if you can't travel and conferences are kind of out. We do have an annual conference every year, though. It's called Publishing University. It's in April in 2015 in Austin, Texas, and that's another option for people who want to get together and have community and networking associated with their education.
Yeah,
I've got a screen share if you need it, if you want to go to it. Let me know.
Yeah, go ahead and explain it so it'll stay up.
Well, I just I called up Angela's, but I think the even if you don't end up doing putting on all those hats yourself, which you can't, but you're going to need to know about them and how to hire people, and you know what the qualities are, what the bases are that you need to cover. But I think I'm going to come to Publishers University. I love Austin, and it would be. And I also met somebody else recently who's coming. So, you know, it's kind of like word is getting around. That's cool. Yeah.
We had on a Charlotte show, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, Deltina Hay, and she had done a class with you all on micromedia. So she's really, really nice lady. I really enjoyed having her.
Yeah, I think that's how we got the topic for micromedia, wasn't it? We looked at the IBPA site and got a lot of great ideas. So.
Yeah, we sure did. Yeah. Sure did. It's great stuff. Also, I want to kind of go over commitment, and that's a big, broad word. I know that. But there's different things you need. Do you have the time to take care of everything yourself? Do you more interested in having a team of people help you? Would it be best to be with a small publisher or do the traditional publishing? I think the level of commitment is something that should be taken very seriously in the very beginning, because a lot of people get halfway through the project and all of a sudden they're overwhelmed and they're not able to do what they really want to do is write. So you need to kind of get a feel for what direction you want to go with that. Do you find that's a lot with your authors, Angela, the people you talk to? Do you find that commitment's sometimes an issue and that they really need to, it helps to kind of figure it out in the beginning?
I think no matter how much you say it or how emphatically you say it, you really can't know what you mean, until you start the process. And we do get a lot of people come through and they think it's really, generally speaking, to get a book published, to get something that online and available to consumers. But then that's just the beginning of the process. Someone mentioned to me once, it's like birthing a child. You can carry the book for 8-9 months, and that's the writing process. But then you got to raise the book for 18 years, and you've got all the stuff that has to go on after the book is available. And that, I think, is where people don't put so much thought into it, because particularly if you're a writer, that's where your passion lies potentially, and then you're going to focus a lot of your energy.
And I think that
again, yeah.
Sorry, go.
Just there's another hat. There's a shutting off the writer and turning on the publisher, and that's a different journey that you're going to take.
Right.
Yeah, those I was going to say something about the affiliates. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll think of it here in a second, but.
I do that all the time.
I know.
I start to think about something, then I get distracted with something else, and there
right beyond my grasp. But
yeah, there I go. Also the financing that, so many people are publishing, and they think that because so many people are, that it's really, and I mean it's not super expensive to do, but there are costs, and to do it well, you need a really good cover design. A really good cover design is going to cost you a bit of money. You need a website built or something like that. And I think that financing can be an issue. And it, Helen Sedgwick, also again, she was one of my early guests. Helen Sedgwick, she wrote the Self-Publisher's Legal Handbook, which is a must-have for anyone thinking of going into the self-publishing space. It'll save you time, money, and heartache. Not kidding. Mm-hmm. It really will. But she points out, financing, understanding how that's going to affect your taxes, how you're going to pay people, how your money's going to come in. If you do a crowdfunding campaign, how are you going to define that money and be able to pay the taxes on it? I mean, there's a lot of small details a lot of people don't think about. So I think those are pieces that you kind of need to investigate a little bit too.
Yeah, I just remembered what I was going to say too, that that's certainly true. I think that even if you start, you don't have to have all this master plan, or if you start out just doing your book and it's a self-published book, that's fine. And then I just wanted to ask Angela what you thought about how to move, like if you decide self-publishing is not for you, how you would then move into finding a publisher. And I think the IBPA and the affiliates, like IPNE, which is one, getting involved in those. I mean, I've picked up a few authors that way, just from people who join the organization.
Yeah, and that's a great point.
It informs them, and they have sort of an avenue in to find a publisher. So, did you have any other tips, like if you decide self-publishing is not for you, Angela?
Yeah, and that's a great one, Charlotte. I hadn't thought about that. I think self-publishing now is a viable first choice option. I truly, truly believe that. I think people can choose it and do it well. And at the end of the day, the consumer has they have no clue. They really don't follow publishers. That is not how consumers work. But I also know that a lot of people will fall back onto self-publishing because they have tried to get a traditional publisher and they weren't able to do so. And so there is work there too. And traditionally in publishing, it's been the agent who's taken on that body of work for a writer. And there's very defined lines, right, in our business of who does what in publishing. And all of those lines are blurring now, and you can do it for yourself. So now we're having a conversation of, do you want to be a writer, a publisher, or maybe you also want to be an agent for your. But the successful agent, or if you decide to do that yourself and go after a publisher, you're going to really understand your brand as an author, and you're going to be able to articulate it very clearly. You're going to have built a platform for yourself already, so you can show the publisher who's interested in you, well, I already have a base of X, Y, Z number of people who are going to be interested in this book. Here are all the things I've already done to pre-announce my content. So you're going to have
an author like that, it's great,
Yeah, it is, and to have a sense of who your reader is. I mean, all those things you have to know as a publisher, you're going to want to be very clear about as a as an author going after a publisher. And then your proposal is going to need to be very cleanly done, and I would recommend thinking of your proposal as a professional piece of writing that you have edited before you submit forward. Publishers get a lot of proposals, so to have yours stand out, I think, is to put some time into it and to really make sure it speaks well about your platform. That's
a very good point about having that edited before you send it out. You know, I mean, I'm a firm believer the more people that can look at something, the better quality project you're going to end up with. So that's very important.
Yeah, I mean, I just got a new query from someone, and I haven't read the manuscript, but I said, you know, 99% sure I want to work with you, because she had this whole, she'd been in advertising and done books, promoted books, and she said, I'm ready to do that part. And now in publishing, even unless you're Stephen King or Patricia O'Connell or McConnell or whatever, no, publishers aren't going to do that for you. You know, you hear a lot of authors who've gone to self-publishing or small publishers kind of complain about that. You know, yeah, they gave me an advance. Yeah, they published my book. Yeah, it's Random House, but they're not doing anything else. You know, so yeah,
right.
That's the reality. Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons a lot of people then go to self-publishing, is because they realize they're going to have to do a lot of that legwork on their own anyway. Yeah. There is a lot of value in a traditional publisher. I think they do bring a great deal of expertise and domain knowledge, and also contacts into the traditional distribution channels, which, as a self-published author, that's the one issue that most of our members say they have trouble with, is finding a distributor that will take them, and finding, you know, wide distribution for their content is very difficult for a self-publisher, and not difficult at all for a traditional publisher to enable.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, I don't trash traditional publishers, but you really do. You see the gates so clearly, and the locks.
Yeah.
You know, when you do your own, you see what you can actually, you know, go around and do. You go around those gates, and
it's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and I think that as the paying lessons of getting into that self-publishing space, people like having that control over everything. You know, they're not, you know, like covers, for instance. You know, a traditional publisher may have something completely different in mind than the author, and there's a lot of give and take, whatever. And I think they like having that control and feeling that they're more a part of the process, and for failures and successes. But then they also learn, you know, if they do have a failure or something doesn't do that well, they learn all that themselves. And really, honestly, you don't have many people to blame other than yourself. So you say, okay, well, what could I do better next time? Instead of blaming it on an entity. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not as much of a learning experience, I wouldn't think.
I wanted to point out that my co-president, Tortoise Isselhart, often does a presentation on how to build your team as an independent publisher or self-publisher. And that's a really important, well, it's a skill to know how to select people that are going to be your subcontractors or your editor or your designer and all that. I mean, it's good to know what you want, but it's also good to know that when you need to give up that direct application of your talent, you know, or lack of talent, because there's a lot of great books out there with really bad covers or really bad interior design. I mean, and people think they just don't know that that's part of the process. You know,
I don't think they even know that it's bad. I mean, you've brought this up a couple of times, Laura, and I'm grateful for it, because it's like I don't even know if you as the author, I'm certainly there are some great people who have a design brain and a writing brain and all kinds of different parts of their brain that work really, really well at the high level, but a lot of people don't, and you might be a fantastic writer and editor and not necessarily the right designer. And that tension that comes with the publisher and the writer on the cover, I think, is one of the most interesting ones. With a publisher who is in the market looking at covers all day and understanding what's selling and not selling, Sometimes it's even just, this or that, and it's very subjective. And not to listen to that expertise is really interesting to me.
Yeah,
and
you certainly have
no wonder they kind of dictate, that this is the way it's going to be. You don't have anything to say about it.
Yeah. Yeah, because there is definitely in the self-publishing space a lot of times a disconnect between the cover and the content. And myself, I'm a very visual person. So whether I'm in the bookstore or online, I look at the cover first. And I'll be honest with you, before I ever look at an excerpt of the book, which is probably not a nice thing to do, and I feel that I miss a lot of good writing because of that. But
I'm sure
I think too that if you're going to self-publish, you really have to be honest with yourself. And if you're not a designer, don't do it. Don't just stop. And don't ask your friend's neighbor's wife's cousin who's in high school to do your cover for you. Go save the money and get some. This is your baby. This is your project. You want it to look nice. Save the money. Wait till you can get it done right.
Yeah, there's very few grandmothers who are good copy editors. They're book editors. I'm sorry.
Well,
I don't want to offend
the other
anyone.
thing you said too is really important to remember, because we are dealing with because you said you might be able as a self-publisher to learn a lot and and I think that's absolutely true, you do, but often you might just have the one book. It's very, I can't imagine. I wish I was a writer, but to write multiple books, to get it wrong on the first try, and then not to have another, I think is really difficult for a lot of the members that we work with. So if you only got the one book, side note, by the way, you do need 3 books to make a business is kind of the tagline on publishing.
Right.
You absolutely need 3 books in order to make money. The first 2 will be loss leaders, generally speaking, and by the 3rd you'll start to make money. But maybe you only have the one book, and I don't think you want to take a chance on that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And that brings us back to the whole question, should you go the completely professional route with a traditional publisher, self-publisher? And I think it boils down to know thyself. Know what you're willing to bring, what you can bring, I should say, what you can bring to the project. If you are writing your memoirs and have no business knowledge and no understanding of the publishing space, you probably should not, unless you're doing it just like for friends and family, you should probably think about getting professional help. And if you're uncomfortable with a traditional route, go to an independent publisher, a smaller publishing house, and have them, like Charlotte, but have them help you, and they can guide you. And also they're willing to have more handhold with you. And the other thing that I have heard Charlotte mention that I've heard from other publishers like Don Stevens from Merv, they don't necessarily have to control the whole package. They may only help you with pieces of the package to get your project out. So that can be, leave some of that control to you and help you feel more comfortable too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I take the approach of kind of a collaborator with my authors,
Right.
And I actually, one author is going off to do self-publishing, at least she's kind of in the process of making that decision, and she said, I've learned so much from IPNE and from you, and I just think I can do it, so that makes me feel really good. I'll miss her as on the list, but it's a great feeling that you've kind of helped someone.
Yeah, but also you build that relationship. So on her next book, she may decide that she doesn't want to go that route by herself and come back to you. Really, that's kind of how you have to think about it.
Yeah, and there's some other aspects of like ebooks and stuff that she doesn't want to do. So, it'll be a different form of relationship.
I just want to remind everybody that they're listening to The Writing Biz with Angela Bole and Charlotte Pierce. We're talking about self-publishing is right for you. For the video of the show, past episodes, you can visit thewritingbiz.com, and you can also sign up for our newsletter there so you'll never miss another episode. And you can also find the show usually on the Thursday or Friday after the live version on both Stitcher and iTunes. So if you like to listen in your car and want to catch up on episodes, it's a great way to do it. I wanted to touch on, another thing I wanted to touch on was platforms. There's so many different publishing platforms, and we all know the super big names. We don't necessarily have to discuss each individual platform so much, except in the context of what should you look for when you're deciding on a publishing platform? That would probably be a better way to look at that. Angela, what do you think about that?
Well, yeah, you mean distribution platform? Like
yes, like Amazon or CreateSpace or anything like that. Yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting because when we talk about do you self-publish, I think a lot of people in their brain, even I did when you were mentioning that, just defaulted to ebook, and I thought, oh, you mean ebook platform? You mean do I use BookBaby or do I use CreateSpace or do I use? They're going to kill me if I can't remember a third, but I can't. And there is more than just ebooks, and I think most people do a print a simultaneous publication because you want to have the content in the format that the consumer wants, where the consumer wants it, right? So you want to have both print and digital available. And what platform is right for you? I would just say don't do a offset print run right off the bat of 5,000. Do POD as your print option, and then pick a platform that's going to have distribution across all channels and no exclusivity.
Make sure that you keep your own ISBN, unless you're really sure that you want to go with an independent publisher or a traditional
read
publisher.
Everything. Read the entire contract, the terms of service, everything, so that you can make sure that you really are getting the money from that book that you're expecting.
And have at least your first contract with, if you have a publisher, I think you should have an attorney review it. It may cost you $250 to $500, but it's really worth it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
Angela, have you heard about these? Like, what do it's talking about platforms like Wattpad, Inkbook or something, Inkbook, or it's where you put up chapters, you get peer review or reader review, and I participated in a Wattpad, and she's just coming out with a book now, but it was a great book, and I loved doing that. Now I have a relationship with the author. So it's what do you think about those ways of sort of getting your feet wet without
Great. Yeah, no, I think Wattpad in particular is a great program, and it is, I think, what you said. It's a way to get your content out and engage with the potential readers, with the future readers, to pull that information in and to start to create your platform. If you have no platform, you have to start from somewhere, and these collaborative sites are a great way to start, I think, building that up.
Do you think people should be afraid of losing control or piracy or stuff like that?
I don't think so. I mean, piracy is certainly a problem in publishing, and I don't mean to trivialize it at all. People are losing potential sales through piracy, but I don't think so. I think our culture, if they want to have it for free, they're going to take it for free. That's going to happen, and no amount of the locks and boxes that you put on things and put things in is going to change that.
And it will actually have the effect of limiting your platform or your exposure,
particularly in the beginning, and when platform is key. And unfortunately, it's true. It really is really important to build. No, I would not be too worried about that. I wouldn't worry about your content being out there. I wouldn't worry about consumers commenting on it. I wouldn't delete negative comments necessarily. Even I would be very open to this process.
Yeah, because it's all helpful. I mean, it really is. And if people don't like what you're doing, just rethink about what you're doing. It's not going to work anyways if nobody likes it. So
you can also just be kind of quiet for a while. I think the Wattpad author said sometimes people get really cranked up about issues about race or this or that, and it gets kind of on a negative roll, but you just kind of back off and be a little quieter.
Liddy Wilkes put in the comments smash words. That was your third one, Angela.
Oh, yes, that's my third one. Thank you. I was almost going to fail. I was very close to failure.
I've been doing a lot of reading on crowdsourcing because of a project that I'm going to be doing. And one of the things that I found interesting in the reading that they keep hitting upon over and over again is it's a great way, similar to the way that what made me think about is how Wattpad works in programs like that, to test your material or to test your project or whatever it is. In this case, we're talking about books, but to be able to test it to see if it is going to work. So if you're particularly, I would think this is particularly a point with nonfiction. If you are trying to test out a new theory that you think you can evolve a book around, it'd be a great way to find out if people are really interested in that. And it could save you a lot of time and money. And if it works, you get money. So that's really cool, which can help pay for the cover and your website and all those different things.
We actually have one of our books is a public domain book, so it doesn't matter if people. We want people to copy it.
Here's a very good question for you ladies, and I think I know how Charlotte's going to answer this. Pamela Barraway says a friend locally recently asked her if she knew a lawyer who was conversant in e-publishing law. He inquired because her husband was once a lawyer, and he knows that she's an editor. Is there a resource online for locating such a lawyer?
Do you want to go first?
I don't know. I mean, we have in our membership in IPNE. What would you say?
That's what I was thinking you were going to say. Through their associations.
We have a great guy who's, and you know he's going to be legitimate and wonderful because he's given presentations to us. People have met him, and but that's what the answer I was kind of thinking was going to happen is go through the associations. They can make wonderful recommendations. People that they know that people have worked with and been very happy with. Yeah.
So, Helen Sedgwick's one of them, honestly.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah. She
might be hard to get a hold of her, but.
Yeah, but I mean, her book's a good place to start to let you know if you really need to go further into getting an attorney or what questions to ask, because I think that you don't want to have to keep spending money over and over again. You want to have a list of questions you can take care of.
I know for my recent contracts with authors, I found a template online, and I didn't use it as is. I kind of smushed it around and held it up against some other examples, and then the author took it to Mitchell, who's her attorney, and for review, and he didn't have much to say, but it was a good start for me, and to a good template, and then I was fine with it, the changes she had with it. So
the thing about contracts is, if you're working with somebody who's really dedicated to what they're doing and doing a good job and, crossing their T's and dotting their I's, contract's not a big deal. I mean, the contract really goes into play when that's not happening. And so if you don't have a good contract and you do get in one of those positions, it can get pretty brutal. So, yeah, you can't say enough about contracts. I mean,
and it's a good guideline for people. I know those, those timeline goals that we, or benchmark, publicity, who does that, all that stuff.
Making sure the boundaries are set up and the responsibilities. No, I absolutely agree with you. What else did I want to talk about? Oh my goodness. Actually, I'm gonna ask you ladies, what things have you run into? Can you give me maybe a couple of scenarios to where would be helpful to somebody thinking, boy, I'd like to go into self-publishing, but I can't quite decide either success or a failure, but I see everybody's wheels turning.
Yeah.
Angela? Go ahead.
You want to go into self-publishing, but you just can't decide. I think, well, the first thing I'll say is it's a viable option, as I said before. There's a stigma against it. Against self-publishing per se, I think has worn off. It's gone. There is still and always will be a stigma against poorly published content, however. So that's going to happen. So if you decide that you're going to self-publish, that no one in the industry is necessarily going to say boo about it, unless what you eventually end up with at the end is not quality to the level that I think our industry aspires to, and what our society requires of us as publishers. So in that way, I think you decide to self-publish, and then you decide to take, put another hat on, a different hat. You decide to remove the romanticism of the writing process, if there ever was that for you, and you put on a different, more business hat with a lot of marketing. background, and a lot of consumer understanding background and distribution background, and you start to learn that side of the business. There's some cautionary tales we could probably, Charlotte, you probably know stories of people who've gone this direction and have come crawling back a little ways.
I think like
that, but
partly, but what you referenced in the beginning was know your reader. I think I'd take it back even more and say, what are you passionate about, and do you don't just go into self-publishing because you want to write a book or publish a book. Do it because you want to communicate your passion to your readers, and I think then you will not be stopped. You will be unstoppable.
That's I absolutely agree with that, Charlotte. Absolutely agree with that. You need to, that fire is what's going to keep you going. Because you're going to run into little difficult places, and that's the way to do it. Very good.
And as an indie publisher, not doing my own books because I don't know, I'm just too scattered or something. I don't know, but I then get passionate about the books that I acquire. I believe in them, and I'm kind of the conduit for those passions that people have. So.
Right. And I don't think that enough can be said about the community, is building a community of people who care about what they're doing, care about what you're doing, and are interested in sharing information or learning more. And that can be done through associations. It can be done through local writer groups. It can be done online by just having connections that you make there. I think that's probably the most rapid way that you can grow, at not only as a publisher doing your own publishing, but as an author and as a business person. Because when you see that other people are doing it, what works for them and what's not working for them takes a lot of that trial and error out for you, and will save you a lot of time. And
there's nothing that beats a community, and
I don't think so.
If you're solopreneur or writerpreneur or whatever you call it, just reaching out and getting some buddies is a great inspiration.
Yeah, I really believe it is, and it's just one of those things. Don't let your ego get you in trouble. Open yourself up to people and really listen to them, and that'll help you grow. Some people find that easier than others, but it's definitely would be a powerful thing.
Right, and IPNE is like, we cover this. We're the largest geographical affiliate, aren't we, Angela?
As far as the space that you have to cover.
So and we run into problems with that because it usually, like, the energy of the person who's running, in charge, that's the region that they're going to be focusing on more. But like, if anybody's interested in joining IPNE, it's 6 states. And we're in the process of reaching out to members and saying, do you want to start a local branch, just to meet for coffee, and it's so valuable. The Metro Boston branch we've gotten a lot of volunteers from that. People have connected for other projects, editing, what have you, and it's been just really helpful. And then you have the power of the organization as to do the cooperative marketing and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, there's nothing stronger than collaboration. Honestly, I believe that. It clarifies your purpose. It helps you give somebody you can lean on. That 2 heads are always better than 1. So, I can't.
Collaboration is the new competition.
That's right.
I would like to attribute that and Laura's, who is just a wonderful soul and a brilliant guy who is publishing his 8th book or something now. But
I know, right?
I just love that guy. We met him on Google Plus, and but I put it on my my tagline for my website.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, you should, and that's a really good point. Don't feel that you have to do everything yourself. And not only that, even if you're going into the traditional publishing space, those relationships are still publishers doing a good job for you. And that you're getting the knowledge, you need to be able to deal with them. Because a lot of times, and I'm not just in publishing, in any business, people are so into what their business is, sometimes they forget that the person who's walked into their office doesn't understand it. You know, and they might have trouble communicating that. Now, the really good people won't, but I'm sure anybody listening understands what I mean. So it helps to have those questions and ideas in your head ahead of time, so that you can communicate well with not just the publishers, but if you're working with bookbinders, you're working with cover design people, interior design people, marketing. You know, if you're hiring somebody to do your marketing, if you have some knowledge of how all those pieces kind of work, it's going to help you get better people to work for you, and it's going to make easier solutions to problems. I think that we're going to go ahead and close it out for tonight. Angela, I want to thank you for joining us, and why don't you tell us what we can look forward to in the next few months from the IBPA? What you have coming up?
We're actually going to be taking our members' books to the Frankfurt Book Fair to try and get people interested in purchasing them for international translations, and that's always exciting. But for me right now, I have just ramped up all of our planning for our publishing university, so it's very timely to kind of talk about that here. We just launched our new website. We're starting our call for speakers now, and we'll begin offering. Actually, we do offer scholarships to Publishing University. So if anyone's listening and they wanted to apply for a scholarship, you can apply through IPNE if you're an IPNE member, or any of our other affiliates, or you can apply for an at-large scholarship if you're not an affiliate member. But that's it. I love our publishing university every year. I just would rather be face-to-face with people, chatting and working and networking.
Get a lot of good ideas.
That's where we're going to be focusing.
And that's, they can find that information at ibpa.org, right?
It's ibpa-online.org. Or it's publishinguniversity.org as well. Publishinguniversity.org will take you there.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Charlotte, as always, thank you. And what do you have stirring in the IPNE pot?
Oh boy, we have 3 book shows coming up this fall. We're doing the New England Independent Booksellers Association, which is such a blast, and we have we feature. There's a separate thing to feature members' books, and then we have the exhibit, and we have 5 book signings. So it's a great way, to engage. And we also have the New England Library Association, and we love librarians, and they love indies, as Angela probably would confirm. They like to get regional books, especially if so they like independent books, stuff that isn't just the common fodder. And then the Boston Book Festival, which is in October, and we're going to have sit, sign, and sell sessions, which cost members only $35, and it's a way to get into this premier Boston area literary community. Thousands of people come, and it's going to be a blast also. And then we'll have our second annual awards in the spring and our conference. And we're doing membership development and the branch development as well. So if anybody's out in Maine or Vermont or New Hampshire or Connecticut or Rhode Island or Massachusetts that wants to get a group together, we'd love to hear from you. And then in Pierce Press, I just wanted to make one more thing, mention that I am actually actively looking for books on the alternative education topic for my Pedagogy Books imprint. So if anybody's listening and got your antenna out, alternative education, homeschooling, peer learning, peer production, that kind of thing, I'd love to hear about those manuscripts.
Oh, that's wonderful. I hope that you get some interest in that, because that's, you know how I feel about that type of education. So I think that's terrific. Yeah, that's terrific. Next week we're going to continue our 4-part series on self-publishing. My guest will be Penny Sansevieri of Author Marketing Experts, and we'll discuss the different self-publishing platforms. I want to thank everyone in the audience for joining us, and I want to also remind you to find your past episodes and all resources and tools that we mentioned on the show at thewritingbiz.com. While you're there, sign up for the newsletter so you'll never miss another episode. Also, The Writing Biz can be found on Stitcher Radio, iTunes, and I would appreciate it if you would also leave a review there if you could. Charlotte, what are we doing next week on Indie Office Hours?
Indie Office Hours next week is how to get good book reviews. I was going to say how to get book reviews, but of course you want good book reviews. You'll take the negative ones, but we have guests that we've invited. We haven't confirmed them yet, but we'll have a great lineup
and that's Tuesday at noon.
Tuesday at noon, yeah.
Okay, terrific. I want to thank you both so much for joining us, and thanks everybody for watching or listening to The Writing Biz, and have a great week. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Have a good day.
Thank you.